In 2017, I had a mystical experience in this cemetery. I was absolutely finished as a person. I remember writing, "I am finished" in a diary and sitting back and looking at what I'd written and feeling the absolute truth of it. Sometimes we say things in our minds or we might write them if we have a journal, and you know that it's hyperbole, you know that you're exaggerating, you know that you're kind of puffing up your own circumstances. But no, I felt that as a flat truth. I felt that I was done, that there was nothing more. I was finished. I was ash. All the anything that could be consumed had been consumed in me, and I had nothing more to give. I had no idea who I was. I didn't want anything. I didn't really know how I was still living. I was just sort of floating through the days. That's all. It was a hot day in July, and I came to sit in this cemetery on a bench. And I was in a state of complete surrender. I sat there, and because I was nothing, because there was nothing, I had no desires. So when I prayed, I wasn't petitioning. I had no idea of what I wanted. I just said, "God, what would you have me do?" And if God had said, "Take off your shoes and walk to India," I think I'd have done it. I was just absolutely bereft. And at that moment, I experienced grace. I was sitting there, and the only way I can describe it is that I was restored unto myself. My prayer was answered in an instant, and I understood. Ask and it shall be given, seek and ye shall find. It's literal. And it was like there was a light dropped into the crown of my head, and I felt fully myself again. Like I'd been completely empty, and then my soul had returned to my body. But not just my soul, like with full of light and understanding and the sense that God loves me. And there was information, and I didn't hear a voice, but there was information in the light. And the information was, you belong to yourself. And I did. And I knew it. It wasn't it wasn't an idea. It wasn't something I got out of a book. It was pure apprehension. Because I had been unable to leave somebody that was doing me harm. Just unable. I was completely melded with this person. And then in an instant, I was free. I cannot find words for what I felt at that moment. And it colored 2 or 3 years of my life. I carried it with me. And the power that that other person had had over me was gone, just completely gone. And I was a sovereign individual again because I'd learned how to pray. And for a time, I lived in a kind of perfect alignment, and it was like a rebirth. I was like day one of life again, but I was conscious and had language and had memory and understanding of how to do things, and I was absolutely ecstatic. And I sat there with tears rolling down my face and just filled with gratitude, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't expect moments of grace like that, every week. It's my job to take care of that, to maintain myself in integrity and alignment. And so that is what all of this is about. Returning to a felt sense of truth and presence and gratitude and grace and peace. I feel a bit uncertain about releasing this video because that moment was a real treasure for me. And I don't believe that you cast very intimate moments and real treasures out into the world lightly. But one of the reasons that I have started this channel is because I have been helped. I have been spoken to by people who don't know I exist. And I've righted things in my mind. I've followed paths laid for me by people that have gone before me. And I think that we all just have our part to play in. So thank you for walking with me. I don't know where I got this from, but it's just popped into my head. We're all just walking each other home. In this second section of the video, I'm returning to Martha Beck's book, The Way of Integrity, and dealing with fear, dealing with the things that we cannot see, dealing with the person that I was before I had that moment of grace, and the person that I started returning to, because there is such a thing as spiritual hygiene. One of the ways that fear takes a very comfortable seat inside is by setting up taboos. In Martha Beck's book, she talks about the unmentionables, the things that we cannot even mention in our own mind, because if we were to do that, we would be confronted by something that would force us into an action that we're not ready for. And that's why we've buried the knowledge. And so the question is, what am I afraid to mention, even in the safety of my own mind? Here are some writing prompts that she uses in order to reveal that to ourselves. Often writing is an automatic process, so you put the pen to paper and then something comes out and you know whether that's true. So the prompts are, in regard to this topic, what I'm most afraid to know is, what I'm pretending not to see is, what I don't want anyone else to know is, if other people knew, I'm afraid that. So if you've answered these questions, the next question that comes up is, okay, now I can see those things. Now I've mentioned the unmentionable, but I'm still absolutely terrified. So how can I kill my cowardice? The most natural instinct that we have is to run. But obviously we can't run because we take whatever is with us. And we can do things like self-medicating, which I mentioned in the previous video, or practice any form of escapism. But actually, the only way forward is to sit with it and to look it in the face. So what follows is the surrender flow meditation, directly taken from Martha Beck's book, The Way of Integrity. And this is something I wanted to do, was to record myself reading it, because it's kind of difficult to do a meditation while you're reading from a book. So what follows is the surrender flow meditation. It only lasts about 2.5 minutes. And obviously you can stop the meditation at the end and spend a bit more time extending out the practice. But if you want to, get ready. The meditation starts now. Hold in your mind or reread the do not mention topics. Whatever made you the most uncomfortable, allow it to remain in your mind for now. However you're feeling, whether that's edgy, irritable, depressed, just let yourself feel that way for now. Sit in a comfortable chair or lie down. Make sure you're warm or cool. Get cozy for now. And as you sit or lie there, just notice how your breath goes in and out. The first thing you did when you entered this world was breathe in. And the last thing you'll ever do is breathe out. Watch your breath reliably keeping you alive without any effort on your part for now. On an inhale, think the words, I allow everything in the universe to be as it is in this moment. After all, you can't make it different in this moment, so just stop trying for now. As you exhale, think, I surrender all resistance to the universe being as it is in this moment for now. Continue to think, I allow on every in-breath and I surrender on every out-breath. You don't have to surrender and allow any moment but this present one. But in this instant, let it all be. Accept every out-breath as a death to this fleeting moment, every in-breath a rebirth to this new one. Relax into the rhythm of letting go and opening up for now. Consider the uncomfortable thing you wrote down in your do not mention exercise. Allow everything about that situation to be as it is for now. Surrender all resistance to its being as it is, just for now. Now, what about all the stuff that we don't even know we're doing? The unconscious lies, the innocent mistakes, the self-sabotage, the errors of righteousness, where we're really sure we're doing the right thing, yet it makes us feel awful. And we ignore that discomfort because we just assert the supremacy of the intellect. And we just keep asserting the supremacy of a set of thoughts over a reality, and that queasy, stressful cross currents of contradiction inside are steadily weakening us. And what I want to bring about, what Martha Beck wanted to bring about with the book, and the reason that I read it, is to stop any kind of self-betrayal. I wonder too if the worst part of betrayal is actually the self-betrayal that could follow something that happens to us. If somebody cheats on us or cheats us, if we deny that fact to ourselves and live in a state of just accepting something that we shouldn't have accepted, we are self-betraying and we live self-divided in ignorance and unable to access our own strength and truth. And the only way to undo that is with courage. And as Maya Angelou says, courage is the most important of the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. So some of these lies, they go really deep. She calls them foundational lies. And they're things that you might say to yourself, he loves me, he didn't mean that. Everything will be okay once. He's just stressed from work. Well, where would I go anyway? And of course, I do love him. It's just there are an infinite variety of these, but these are some that I've used in the past. Now, depending on what you're like as a person and your own lived experience, you might either be thinking, well, of course I know when I'm lying to myself and I don't lie to myself. Or maybe I'm lying to myself, but how do I know? There are ways to tell, because the body tells the truth. The body is an instrument of truth. And there are techniques like muscle testing where it can be demonstrated that if you hold out your arm, and I've done this, I did this in an NLP workshop, where you put out your arm and you say, hello, my name's Bob and I'm an antelope. And because I'm not Bob and I'm not an antelope, if I'm holding out my arm, it's really easy for somebody else to push down on my arm because there's just no strength in it. But if I use my real name, I have strength, I have resistance. The simplest one really is to ask your heart. And I mean, really ask your heart and not let the head answer. And there's a phrase that's meaningful to me. I don't know if it'll be meaningful to you, but it's something I say to myself, or I know something makes me feel like my heart is alive. I'm in a state of living heart. And then there are other things where my heart is on mute, and maybe my brain's stimulated or proud or in some kind of way. But something really for me, something that's really resonant with my inner being, always gives me the sense of having a living heart. And then, quite simply, we've got muscle tension and the whole sense of being relaxed, of an ease in the body, a lightness. And Martha Beck does various prompts where you think of something that makes you feel good and you think of something that makes you feel tense, and you just notice the difference within you. So you start trying to tune into your body more. And we tend to just override our bodies and ignore them. It's like, now is not the time. I don't have time to feel this stress. I've got this project to do. The last point that I'm going to talk about that comes directly from the book, The Way of Integrity, is this table on making judgments, or passing judgments. We have to use discernment. We have to look at the way that we're living our lives, bring to bear difficult judgments. Because once an unmentionable has been uncovered, once we're confronted with the truth, now we need to bring into action our judgment and our discernment. And a lot of time we have been cultured out of using discernment. We're told that judgment is bad, but judgment is absolutely necessary. It's just a tool that needs to be handled carefully, like a knife. And there's a difference that she makes between making judgments and passing judgments. And when you're in truth, it is legitimate to make a judgment and to use the sword of truth and to cut and to say, no, I no longer want this in my life. But that is not the same as judging others as inferior, as getting into an energy of superiority or obsession or closed-mindedness and rigidity. And I think that is something that we all benefit from learning. Now I want to turn to what I'm going to call the adversary. The adversary can be a demon, a devil, someone or something that has power over us and seeks to bring us down. But those things don't have power. Those people don't have power when somebody is walking in the way of integrity. There are no dark spots that we don't want mentioned, because that's where these things take root. They exploit the things that we've hidden from ourselves. And it was a number of years ago now, and I was doing a bit of bibliomancy. I was writing a character of a minister of a Protestant church, and I opened the Bible and I wrote this out. But I didn't understand it at the time, this passage from Matthew 15, but now I do. My goodness. Do you not understand that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and is eliminated? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile a man. And it's out of the heart that proceeds evil thoughts. So essentially, it's not what somebody else says to us, it's what we produce that is defiling. It's our agreement, it's our contract with deceit, with lies, with opacity and confusion that defiles us. And as soon as we refuse to agree to lies, even for comfort or fame or any kind of privilege, when you're immune to that, you are free. Now, obviously, the tarot reader in me has got a lot more to say about the devil, and that is a video planned for one day when I've worked my way through all of the ideas that are queued up. But for now, thank you for joining me in this dark forest within the pages of the Book of Fear. And hopefully you'll see that the light is beginning to emerge. And if you join me and make the full journey, we'll find the daylight.